Section 2.4, find the slope and y-intercept. This is one of three types of problems that you'll see in section 2.4. One thing I want to say right at the start is f of x, it's basically the same as y. Sometimes you'll be given a problem that says y equals such and such, and they'll be asked to find the slope and the y-intercept. So here, this is pretty easy. You'll want to get the y or the f of x by itself, which is already done here, but I do want to write that. Get y or f of x by itself. Sometimes you'll need to do some maneuvering to get the y or f of x all by itself. But once you've done that, then we can tell both of these things. We can just look at it and tell the slope and also the y-intercept. And that comes from the number that's in front of x, this -6. That's going to be our slope. And then our y-intercept is going to be an ordered pair that starts with 0. And the y value is going to come from this number here. So both those things we can tell, the slope, -6, whatever's in front of x, and then the y-intercept is 0, -10. For the second example, find the slope and y-intercept of the line. Same thing that we're looking for, only this example we don't have the y or the f of x by itself. So I want to start off reiterating what I said just a minute ago, which is to get the y or f of x by itself. On the last problem, we didn't have to do anything there, but here we do have to do a little bit of maneuvering in order to get the y by itself. Basically, all we need to do is get rid of the 27 and the 3. So if we're going to get rid of the 27, subtract it. Put a little line here. And the 27s disappear. On the right now we've got 3y. Let's do that in a different color. Stick with green. 3y equals 10x and -27. Not like terms, so don't smush those together and make -17 or anything like that. Just 10x minus 27. And then in order to get the y by itself, now we've got to divide by whatever's in front of the y, which in this case is 3. So we're going to divide both sides by 3. And we end up with y equals 10 over 3x minus 27 over 3. 27 over 3 is just 9. So now we've got the y by itself, and remember the slope is going to be whatever term's in front of the x. The y-intercept is going to start with 0, but the y value is going to come from that equation there. So the slope, remember it doesn't include the x, but it's the number in front of x, at 10 over 3. And then the y-intercept is going to start with 0, and the number that we fill in is that -9. The third and last example, find the slope of the line containing the following pair of points. Anytime you're given an equation, you can figure out the slope just by getting y by itself. But in this case, we're given 2 points, so the process is just a little bit different. If you're given a pair of points, we're going to use the slope formula. The slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And this doesn't mean y squared or y to the first, anything like that. It basically just means the position of that number. So if we look at these ordered pairs over here, the 8 and the -2, the 2 and the -7, and they're always going to be in the order of x and then y, x and then y. So in this case, if we go ahead and label them, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to call one pair the first pair and the other pair the second pair. So since the 8 and -2 show up, first I'm going to call them x1 and y1. And then 2 and the -7, we'll call them x2 and y2 since they're the second pair. And then from there, you're just filling in to the slope formula over here. We've got y2, so I'll write that down below. y2 is -7. And we're going to subtract whatever y1 is. And in this case, y1, I'll put this in parentheses, y1 is -2. So be careful with negatives because we're subtracting a negative number. We're subtracting y1 over x2, which is 2, minus whatever x1 is, which is 8. So up top, we've got -7. Anytime you subtract a negative, so -7 minus a negative is really -7 plus 2. And then on bottom, 2 minus 8. So you might not necessarily do that step there, but just to show the kind of the thinking between steps. -7 minus 2 is -5. 2 minus 8. -6. Anytime you've got a negative over a negative, that's just positive. So our slope ends up being 5, 6. And by the way, anytime you see m, that's going to be used to represent the slope.